it's not easy for anybody, but I know that, you know, at the end of the day, she chooses me and I choose her. And therefore, you know, whatever we have to tackle together or individually will always be us together as a team.
Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, Duke and Duchess of Sussex, are the modern-day fairy tale we deserve. After all, don't all little girls daydream of being set up on a blind date with a real-life prince?
It was one of the first things we started talking about when we met, was just the different things that we wanted to do in the world and how passionate we were about seeing change. I think that was, that's what got date 2 in the books, probably.
But it hasn't been all unicorns and rainbows for Harry and Meghan. The wedded couple have weathered so many storms and media scandals that you'd think they'd been married for a decade, not a few short years. Meghan has been the picture of grace and poise, and Harry has pushed back against every royal protocol set in stone to defend and support his wife.
I know that I'm in love with this girl, and I hope that she's in love with me. But we still had to sit down on the sofa, and I still had to have some pretty, you know, frank conversations with her to say, look, you know, what you're letting yourself in for, it's a big deal.
The decision was clear: duty or love. Will their decision to start a new life in America distance them in more than just miles from Harry's royal family? Their new life in Hollywood has changed the course of royal history forever. Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, American actress turned princess.
And just on one personal note, may I just say that while I'm here with my husband as a member of the royal family, I want you to know that for me, I am here with you as a mother, as a wife, as a woman of color, and as your sister.
Meghan started her career in acting following in both of her parents' footsteps. Her mother, Doria Raglan, an African-American former television studio intern, who later became a social worker and a yoga instructor, and her father, Thomas Markle, a lighting director who was white. The couple met on the set of the soap opera General Hospital. In 1995, Meghan had an uncredited role in the sitcom Married with Children, for which her father served as lighting and photography director.
Meghan grew up not so much in the industry, but close, kind of on the periphery of show business. I think she got a real taste of it from a very early age, and Meghan was always a natural performer. We've seen videos of her in school plays. We know that she was always kind of gravitating towards the stage and being on stage. Meghan seemed to do really well with the kind of attention and scrutiny that came with being an actress, and there's no doubt that really, from an early age, Meghan always kind of stood out from the rest of her peers. When Meghan was very young, she very famously wrote a letter to Procter & Gamble about a television advert that was on at the time. It was an advertisement for dishwashing soap and fairy liquid, and it was saying, you know, women's work can be made far easier in the kitchen. And Meghan's question was, why is it necessarily women's work? Meghan was really young at the time. She was a young girl, and she was already questioning the status quo.
Her last and most significant role was that of Rachel Zane in the American TV legal drama Suits, which she appeared in for 7 seasons.
Suits was Meghan's big break. There is no question that Suits is what put her on the map. She started to have fans. She started getting invited to award shows. For Meghan, Suits was her big break, and it introduced a whole new chapter to her life.
So before Meghan joined the royal family, she was an actress. She obviously had her role in Suits, and so she was really part of that kind of TV film industry party scene, a bit of a Hollywood girl. You know, she was born and brought up in LA, so she loved party dressing. She loved that relaxed LA look as well. So it's kind of as far from royal style as you can get, really. Lots of short skirts, lots of sparkly little dresses, but also lots of kind of leggings and ripped jeans and laid back style. So it was very different from the classic princess look that you'd recognise, but she was also really stylish in her own way.
This is a woman who is well used to the red carpet, but again, way before, months before that wedding, that will really put London on the map, won't it? Because every photographer who's interested in covering royal stories will be there to see if she turns out in that official capacity.
Absolutely true. I mean, every royal bride brings new star quality, but Meghan brings Hollywood star quality, and I think that's going to be the difference. And as you'll have seen from the interview earlier on, she's confident, she's articulate, she's assured, and that's really going to appeal not only to journalists but to royal fans and indeed romantics around the world.
In my personal opinion, Meghan Markle is ideally suited to be a royal for two reasons. One is, as a Hollywood actress, she would be used to red carpets, she would be used to having to dress in order to be scrutinized, she would be used to getting questions fired at her by journalists.
She's very accomplished. She's starred in Suits, which was obviously a huge TV series. And she's done other interesting things as well in the past. She studied at Northwestern University, which is very prestigious. She's obviously very bright. She interned at the US Embassy in Buenos Aires, and then she got into acting. I think she went back to LA and met a manager who had seen some of her work as a student and thought, you know, she had the potential to go far, and the rest is history.
But I don't see it as giving anything up. I just see it as a change.
It's a new challenge.
It's a new chapter, right? And also keep in mind, I've been working on my show for 7 years. So we were very, very fortunate to be able to have that sort of longevity on a series. And for me, once we hit the 100 episode marker, I thought, you know what, I have ticked this box, and I feel really proud of the work I've done there. And now it's time to, as you said, work as a team with you. Yeah.
Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex, younger son of Charles, Prince of Wales, and Diana, Princess of Wales. Because of Princess Diana's desire that Harry and his older brother Prince William experience the world beyond royal privilege, she took them as boys on public transportation and to fast food restaurants and stood in line with them at Disney World.
I think her legacy largely continues through her sons, and it has been William and Harry who, to be fair, at the 10th anniversary of her death said, can we just put her to rest and let her rest in peace now and not dredge up all of these theories and stories of the past. But in the other breath, I think both of those princes are saying, look, we will, through our charitable efforts, continue what our mother started, and that was essentially to use our royal role for good. They could do nothing, they choose to do something. Both of them have chosen patronages which have reflected their mother's work. Say, for instance, Prince William with Centrepoint, the homelessness charity, which is both of his parents were involved in, and the Royal Marsden, which his mother was patron of, for instance, cancer charity for children. Equally, you've had Harry going out to Africa, helping AIDS orphans in Lesotho. Obviously, his mother was synonymous with AIDS. And indeed, I think we see through Harry Diana's common touch, his ability to just relate to people on to a level, which is what's made him so popular.
Determined that they understand people's emotions, insecurities, and hopes and dreams, she took Harry and William with her when visiting homeless shelters, orphanages, and hospitals.
Well, to walk in her footsteps is clearly quite emotional for me. But I think as much as she did then, there is still so much to do. But without question, if she hadn't have campaigned the way that she did 22 years ago, this could arguably still be a minefield.
Diana's death had a profound impact on Harry. The image of him at 12 walking solemnly with his brother William behind Diana's coffin as it was carried through the streets of London did much to endure Harry to the hearts of the British people.
Although you had this global superstar's funeral, which the world was watching because she was this iconic figure, at the same time you were reminded that day with those two very small boys walking behind her coffin that actually this was somebody's mother, and it almost felt intrusive, grossly intrusive, to be following those boys on that path, in that cortege really. And I think equally we have to reflect that those princes have been changed immeasurably by their mother's death, both for the better and for the worse, and they've had a very difficult childhood to go through in the media gaze.
Strangely enough, when William and Harry came to see me at Kensington Palace shortly after their mother died, I said to them, you must take something. Take something which belonged to her that you can keep safe. What do you want, William? I said. I'd like Mummy's Cartier watch, the one that Grandpa Spencer gave to her for her 21st birthday. Okay, I went to the safe and I got the watch. And what about you, Harry? What would you like? I remember, he said, when I held Mummy's hand when I was a small boy, that ring always hurt me because it's so big. Do you mean her engagement ring? Yes. So I went to the safe and gave Harry Diana's engagement ring. William told Harry that he was going to become engaged to Catherine. Harry said to him, wouldn't it be fitting if she had Mummy's ring? And then one day, that ring will be sat on the throne of England. So Harry gave up his precious treasure, his one thing he kept from his mother, he gave to his brother. That's selfless, kind, and exactly who Diana was. Harry has Diana's personality, William has his father's. Harry is fun, naughty, great time out. William is serious and studious and kingly. Two boys from the same parents, two boys of very different nature.
The world has a soft spot for Prince Harry. It really began, I think, the affection for both boys when their mother died. We all saw that just tragic footage of the boys walking behind their mother's coffin when they were so young, and even the flowers in the coffin with the note, handwritten note, I love you, Mommy. You know, it was devastating. I think the whole world loved those boys and has watched them grow into accomplished, wonderful, caring men that their mother would be very proud of. So I think it's the love for Harry began with the love for Diana. But I think the world, and particularly Americans, adore Harry because he doesn't do everything right. He played naked pool, naked billiards, I mean, in Vegas. Like, he certainly has not done everything right. He's messed up. There have been rumors about Harry over the years of things that he was caught up in. He certainly hasn't played it safe, and he certainly hasn't done everything right. It's his humanness that people have fallen in love with. It's his openness, his honesty, the fact that he's royal, but he's also very real, that I think people relate to and love him all the more for it. When Harry goes to a homeless shelter or goes to work in a mental health facility, it's very clear that he really genuinely cares. There's something about his mother in Prince Harry which is a compassionate empathy which radiates through him. There's nothing that seems put on or false about it. He is so real and connected, and I believe, personally, it's exactly what people resonated with Princess Diana.
She never once allowed her unfaltering love for us to go unspoken or undemonstrated. She will always be remembered for her amazing public work. But behind the media glare, to us, just two loving children, she was quite simply the best mother in the world.
Prince Harry's life hasn't been easy despite being born into royal privilege. He's endured tragedy, heartbreak, and loss. Fitting into the archaic institution of monarchy has been a struggle his entire life.
I've been lucky enough to meet Prince Harry on several occasions, and I've interviewed him a couple of times, and he does what he says on the tin. He wears his heart on his sleeve. He's a really passionate character. He really backs the causes that he supports. And, you know, he brings a lot of fun and excitement to the royal family. So I think everyone's going to be watching his and Meghan's future together with a lot of excitement.
In 2013, Prince Harry spent 4 months in Afghanistan with the British Army. He often refers to his time there as some of the most humbling days of his life. And while serving, he preferred to be known as Captain Wales, as opposed to his formal royal title of Prince Harry.
I think he loves the privacy. There's no paparazzi chasing him. He hasn't got his bodyguard team with him in the field. He's with the boys who he gets on with incredibly well.
He's one of these officers that you can talk to. He's laid back, chilled out. Once a job needs doing, he doesn't shout and scream at you. He just asks you to do it, and it makes you want to work for the man, so you get the job done.
But it was good to have him down. I think, you know, as you spoke to some of my guys earlier, they're extremely proud. I mean, we're serving Queen and Country, and he's a living, breathing member of the royal family, stood right next to us and fighting on the front line. I mean, that makes me proud, and I hope that it makes people back home proud to know that members of their royal family are out fighting for the country that they're from.
I mean, I know when my youngest son was out, you know, as a parent, you worry the whole time. I think if you're out here, perhaps, you know, you're getting on with everything, it's not the same, but for everybody left behind, it's ghastly.
He regarded those days as the only time he could be himself, far away from the scrutiny and rigidity of life at home.
He was forever in his sort of khaki outfit, and it was clearly then destined for a career in the army.
Joined the army thinking that I was never going to go on operations. It is nowadays, especially in the world that we live in, it's got that situation where people join the army to almost go on operations, to serve their country abroad, to help in the little way that they can.
Harry comes quite far down the list. After Her Majesty the Queen, Prince Charles will be king. After Prince Charles, Prince William will be king. After Prince William, Prince George, then Princess Charlotte, then Prince Louis will be king. So Harry is now sixth in line. So having to be the monarch, where you have to read the red boxes, you have to know what government's doing, see the Prime Minister every Tuesday, which we all know Her Majesty does, is not going to be for him. So he can create a whole new world with the backing of the royal family and his situation in life. People will turn out to see Prince Harry and his royal bride. People will listen to him. So he's going to take a new and uncharted course, and that's going to be very interesting to watch.
Harry's time in the military consequently inspired much of his charitable work when he returned to royal duties. This includes the internationally successful Invictus Games.
And now, it is my pleasure to introduce our guest of honor. You may have heard of him before. I've had the opportunity to spend some time with him over the years, and I've seen his commitment and his passion to this issue, and I'll tell you, it's real. He's a real life guy who cares about everyone in this room. To him, our wounded warriors aren't just a distant cause. To him, they're brothers and sisters in arms. They're the men and women he's served with. They're the heroes he has a genuine personal connection with. And he feels from the bottom of his heart that it is his job to serve them as well as they've served us.
The British public, I can only speak for the British public, they have basically invested in a group of individuals, a group of people, because they want to help. This is the result, as far as I'm concerned. This really is. You're going to see people that have lives have been changed by the way they've injured, and then they've been changed by the support they've had by the British public. Et voila, you have this. You have a group of individuals that are going to put on a wonderful sporting display, some of which have only had 2 months to practice.
In his younger years, when Harry was starting to date, he lost many potential lifelong partners abruptly, all for the same reason. The cameras and hounding press were just too much of an intrusion.
Prince Harry had dated a string really, of beautiful English socialites. They tended to be blonde and willowy, very great backgrounds, wealthy families, went to the right schools. However, what Meghan brought to the equation was a lot of humanitarian work that Harry's ex-girlfriends just couldn't even touch with a 10-foot pole. Meghan had actually worked for the UN. She'd gone on missions and trips to support women and children in the developing world. Meghan had been a global humanitarian long before she met Prince Harry. And I think as Harry was very close to stepping into his full role as a member of the royal family, the possibility of meeting someone who was equally passionate and engaged about changing the world and helping other people was extremely attractive to Harry. I think if you watch the engagement interview that Harry and Meghan did on BBC, and they talk about their first meeting and how they instantly connected, it's apparent that yes, there was a mutual attraction, but it went far beyond the physical. Meghan and Harry were attracted to what each other believed in and what each other wanted to do in the world.
There's no doubt that Harry has always struggled with his relationship to the press. It's clear that he still holds resentment towards the paparazzi that chased his mother, Princess Diana, that fateful night in Paris when she was killed in a car crash.
Meghan and Harry were introduced by a mutual friend called Misha Nunu. Misha was a longtime friend of Meghan. She's also a friend of Harry's, and she actually set them up. Now, you have to understand, when you're as famous as Meghan Markle, or obviously Prince Harry, you can't just go and meet someone, and you can't go on Bumble, and you can't go on normal dating apps. When you're rich and famous, the only way that you can really meet people to date is basically being set up, because there's always a risk if you go on a dating app or you just meet someone in a bar that they'll go to the tabloids, they'll sell their story, they'll sleep with you and take pictures when you're sleeping. I mean, horrible, horrible things have happened. So when you're on the level of Prince Harry, it's going to be a setup. It's always going to be someone who knows somebody. Now, Meghan just happened to be in the right circle, to be on the periphery of Prince Harry's life, and is drop-dead gorgeous and very much Harry's type. So Misha, the mutual friend of Meghan and Harry, recognized that these two would be crazy about each other. If you look at pictures of Meghan Markle's ex-husband, Trevor Engelson, who she was only married to for 2 years, but she was actually with for 6 years prior to their wedding, he doesn't look that dissimilar to Prince Harry. He actually resembles Prince Harry. So if Meghan had a type, I think Harry is very much it. And I think from Harry's side, what man wouldn't be attracted to someone who's as beautiful, glamorous, and stylish as Meghan Markle is?
It was a blind date.
It was a blind date,
and,
for sure.
And it's so interesting because we talk about it now, and even then, because I'm from the States, you don't grow up with the same understanding of the royal family, and so while I now understand very clearly there's a global interest there, I didn't know much about him, and so the only thing that I had asked her when she said she wanted to set us up was, I had one question. I said, well, is he nice? Because if he wasn't kind, it just didn't seem like it would make sense, and so we went and met for a drink, and then I think very quickly into that we said, well, what are we doing tomorrow? We should meet again.
What are we doing tomorrow? Let's meet again. And then it was like, right, diaries. We need to get the diaries out and find out how we're going to make this work, because I was off to Africa for a month. She was working, and we just said, right, where's the gap? And the gap happened to be in the perfect place.
Despite Harry's global fame, Meghan says she didn't have a lot of preconceived notions about who he was before they met.
I think for both of us, though, it was really refreshing, because given that I didn't know a lot about him, everything that I've learned about him, I learned through him, as opposed to having grown up around different news stories or tabloids or whatever else. Anything I learned about him and his family was what he would share with me, and vice versa. So for both of us, it was just a really authentic and organic way to get to know each other.
Of course Meghan knew she was going on a blind date, but I mean, that's all slight fluff, that she hardly knew anything about Harry. We now subsequently discover that, she'd watched the Diana's wedding. She was an avid fan of the royal family, so she knew exactly who she was going on a blind date with. So it wasn't really a blind date at all.
Meghan has always been interested in the world, in politics, in the global stage. And, we saw when Meghan had her own blog, The Tig, that she did an awful lot of traveling. She wrote about everything from fine wines to the best restaurants, fashion, travel. She has always been very much interested in the world. Meghan also is very much an Anglophile. We know that she spent extended periods of time in London, in the UK. Some of her best friends are and were British. Meghan wrote an anonymous column for The Telegraph about Diary of a Working Actress, which was later exposed that it had been her. But it was something that Meghan's always been really passionate about and interested in, is England and the UK.
I don't know if it's something new. I think it's for me, it's an added member of the family. It's another team player as part of the bigger team. And for all of us, all we want to do is be able to carry out the right engagements, carry out our work, and try and encourage others and the younger generation to be able to see the world in the correct sense, rather than perhaps having a distorted view. So, you know, the fact that I fell in love with Meghan so incredibly quickly was sort of confirmation to me that everything, all the stars were aligned, everything was just perfect. It was this beautiful woman just sort of literally tripped and fell into my life. I fell into her life, and the fact that I know the fact that she'll be really unbelievably good at the job part of it as well, is obviously a huge relief to me, because she'll be able to deal with everything else that comes with it. But no, you know, we're a fantastic team. We know we are, and we hope to, you know, over time, try and have as much impact for all the things that we care about as much as possible.
I am very excited about that, yeah.
Things moved quickly from there. The couple went on a second date, and then Harry invited Meghan to accompany him on a trip to Africa just 3 or 4 weeks later.
Harry said there's only one place in the world that he feels really free, and that is in Africa. And he'd been to this place in Botswana with a couple of other girlfriends. So it was obviously his romantic spot. And they think Meghan and Harry had 2 dates. And then she was going back to Toronto, and he was going off to work in Africa. And he said, meet me in my tent in Africa. And that's what happened. So no time was lost.
We first met, we were introduced actually by a mutual friend who
we should protect her privacy and not reveal too much of that.
And but it was literally, it was through her, and then we met once and then twice back to back, 2 dates in London last July.
Yes.
Beginning of July, and then it was, I think, about 3, maybe 4 weeks later that I managed to persuade her to come and join me in Botswana, and we camped out with each other under the stars. She came and joined me for 5 days out there, which was absolutely fantastic. So then we were really by ourselves, which was crucial to me, to make sure that we had a chance to get to know each other.
Meghan and Harry had very much a whirlwind romance. They had only been seeing each other briefly when they went to Botswana together under the radar and went camping in Africa, as you do. I think Botswana is really what solidified things between the pair. And I think after that intense experience together, they knew that this was serious. When you are a royal trying to date someone who's a Hollywood actress, which is not unprecedented, but it is unusual, it's very important to stay under the radar. One of the big dangers of this relationship is that there would be a host of publicity, a host of press, and then the two would break up. And then both of them are plagued and haunted by the rest of their lives by questions about this relationship, which was never meant to be. So for celebrities, it's very important before they go public to make sure that it's really serious and it's going to last, because otherwise it's just embarrassing and it's just bad publicity for everyone. In the case of Harry and Meghan, I think they knew very early on that this was potentially going to be a lifelong romance. But they were very cautious, and they tried to keep their relationship under the radar as they got to know each other to make sure before they went public. Harry made several surreptitious visits to Meghan's condo in Toronto, and he would come and go, and really nobody figured out who he was. And Meghan was being, secretly brought over here, stayed with him in Kensington Palace, and again, none were the wiser. Meghan and Harry kept most of their early courting days behind closed doors.
We had to sort of reverse the whole process, and cozy nights in front of the television, cooking dinner with just the two of us by ourselves in our little cottage, rather than going out for dinner and being seen in public. So we reversed the whole process, which is, it's provided different opportunities, and it's made us a hell of a lot closer in a shorter space of time.
That's true.
That's without question. So, if anybody else at home is listening, then maybe slow down on the dates and maybe spend more time at home. But no, it's for us. It's an opportunity to really get to know each other without other people looking or trying to take photos on their phones and all that kind of stuff. With that. That comes with the job, comes with the role, but where possible.
Yeah. And we were able to really get to know each other that way, but also then to go and have friends over for dinner, or to go to his family for tea, or any of those sort of things, and even just to take the time to be able to go on long country walks and just talk.
We've been all over the place.
Have you met the Queen?
I have, yes.
A couple of times.
What was that like?
A couple of times. It's incredible. I think, to be able to meet her through his lens, not just with his honor and respect for her as the monarch, but the love that he has for her as his grandmother. All of those layers have been so important for me, so that when I met her, I had such a deep understanding and, of course, incredible respect for being able to have that time with her. And we've had a really, she's an incredible woman.
And the corgis took to you straight away.
That's true.
For the last 33 years been barked at. This one walks in absolutely nothing.
Just laying on my feet during tea. It was very sweet.
Just like, oh.
After 4 months of quiet dating, the news finally leaked in October 2016 that Prince Harry was dating an American actress.
I don't think that I would call it a whirlwind in terms of our relationship. Obviously, there have been layers attached to how public it has become after we had a good 5-6 months almost with just privacy, which was amazing. But no, I think we were able to really have so much time just to connect, and we never went longer than 2 weeks without seeing each other, even though we were obviously doing a long-distance relationship. So it's we made it work.
November 2016, in a statement via Kensington Palace, the royal confirmed his relationship with the Suits actress. But it's not a joyous one. Harry slams the press and public's harassment of his new girlfriend.
Well, I think the media reaction was very positive. They knew that Harry wasn't going to probably end up marrying some beautiful British rose. They knew it would be a bit different for Harry, because Harry's Harry, he's a free spirit, so is Meghan. So I think there is high hopes for this union, that it might really, work very well. And Meghan's a strong woman. She's 36, she's been married before, and Harry needs someone like that.
Of course, that sense of responsibility was essentially from day one, or maybe a couple of months in, when I suddenly realised, actually, this is, I know that I'm in love with this girl, and I hope that she's in love with me. But we still had to sit down on the sofa, and I still had to have some pretty, frank conversations with her to say that, what you're letting yourself in for is, it's a big deal, and it's, it's not. It's not easy for anybody, but I know that, at the end of the day, she chooses me and I choose her, and therefore, whatever we have to tackle together or individually will always be us together as a team. So, I think she's capable.
So nicely said, isn't it?
I don't know. She's capable of anything, and together, as I said, there's a hell of a lot of stuff and work that needs doing. At the moment, for us, it's going to be making sure that our relationship is always put first. But no, look, both of us have passions for wanting to make change for good, and with lots of young people running around the Commonwealth, that's where we're going to spend most of our time, hopefully.
And it was really one of the first things we connected on. It was one of the first things we started talking about when we met, was just the different things that we wanted to do in the world and how passionate we were about seeing change. I think that was. That's what got date 2 in the books, probably.
Plenty to talk about.
Children?
Not currently, no. No, of course, I think one step at a time, and hopefully we'll start a family in the near future.
If each of you here could get just one more friend to help someone else, you would have started changing the lives of 20,000 people. Some people don't think it's cool to help others. Personally, I think it's the coolest thing in the world.
Look, it's been very important to me for a long time to focus on women's and girls' rights, and especially their empowerment. So to be able to see this from afar and then now see the work that's being done on the ground, I think what's really key is to focus on the work that needs to be done, but also how much incredible work is being done, and to be able to be here and help support those people who are really actively working to champion the rights of women and girls.
That she's American and already well known and has a huge media profile anyway online has kind of set the ball rolling for people thinking it's a free-for-all to comment on every aspect of her life.
It's not unusual for the royal family to complain about press intrusion and request privacy. What's unprecedented about this emotional statement is the protests at the racist undertones and sexism of the coverage in this story. So what could have prompted such a reaction?
Harry reads everything that's written about him and about those in his life, to the point where he actually will talk to you and mention things that you've written about that he doesn't like. He's an avid follower of the press. Yes, of course, that will have driven. Things that he would have read over the last week about Meghan Markle that he hasn't liked, the racial undertones he's talked about, the outright sexism that's been in some of the coverage, that will have stung him to the heart, and I think that is what's prompted this very unusual statement from him.
I think I can very safely say, as naive as it sounds now, having gone through this learning curve in the past year and a half, I did not have any understanding of just what it would be like. I don't think either of us did that. We both said that, even though we knew that it would be.
I tried to warn you as much as possible, but I think both of us were totally surprised by the reaction after the first 5-6 months of what we had to ourselves of what actually happened from then. So I think you can have as many conversations as you want and try and prepare as much as possible, but we were totally unprepared for what happened after that.
The scrutiny.
Well, all sorts.
Well, I mean, I think also because there's a misconception that because I have worked in the entertainment industry that this would be something I would be familiar with. But even though I'd been on my show for, I guess, 6 years at that point, and working before that, I've never been part of tabloid culture. I've never been in pop culture to that degree, and lived a relatively quiet life, even though I focused so much on my job. And so that was a really stark difference out of the gate. But and I think we were just hit so hard at the beginning with a lot of mistruths that I made the choice to not read anything, positive or negative. It just didn't make sense, and instead we focused all of our energies just on nurturing our relationship.
On us. Yeah.
On us. Of course it's disheartening. You know, it's a shame that is the climate in this world, to focus that much on that, or that would be discriminatory in that sense. But I think, you know, at the end of the day, I'm really just proud of who I am and where I come from, and we have never put any focus on that. We've just focused on who we are as a couple. And so when you take all those extra layers away and all of that noise, I think it makes it really easy to just enjoy being together and tune all the rest of that out.
Meghan Markle, her path to the royal family is incredibly interesting because unlike a lot of other royal brides, she already had a public image developed, which included a very distinct sense of style. And this style was tailored to the camera, to publicity, which is sort of similar to what's expected for members of the royal family. But it is very different to what she wore after her marriage. The typical aspects of Meghan's fashion as an actress was knee-length style dresses that were quite structured, but were often quite busy, either lots of patterns or a mixture of different textures, which isn't something we see a lot with her today. It works very well for the camera, the different textures, the different patterns, they're very interesting to look at, but they're not typically royal.
The pair were then spotted in London's Battersea Park, picking out a Christmas tree. To ring in the new year, Harry and Meghan visited Norway to see the Northern Lights, reportedly staying in Tromsø. And later that month, Meghan met Kate Middleton and Princess Charlotte.
Yes, his family's been so welcoming, and
You've met quite a few of them, actually.
I have, on both sides of his family, his mom's side as well, which has been really important to me too. But yes, the family has been great, and over the past year and a half, we've just had a really nice time getting to know them and progressively helping me feel a part of not just the institution, but also part of the family, which has been really, really special.
Trying to track them down and make sure that they're around at the same time that she's popping in without telling too many people. And so we've actually done incredibly well to make sure that you've met all the key people. What was it like? It was exciting. I mean, I've been seeing her for a period of time when I literally didn't tell anybody at all. And then William was longing to meet her, and so was Catherine. So, you know, they're being our neighbours. We managed to get that in quite a few times now. And Catherine's been absolutely amazing, as is William as well. Fantastic support. And then my father as well. We had a couple of, no more than that.
We had
a handful of teas and meetings and all sorts of gatherings over at his place as well. So. No, the family together have been absolutely, solid support, and my grandparents as well have been wonderful throughout this whole process, and they've known for quite some time. So how how they haven't told anybody is again a miracle in itself. But no, the whole family have come together and have been a huge amount of support.
They've been amazing.
So I think Meghan loves fashion. She's very confident with style. And she has this kind of LA girl background as well. So her natural look is of course very different to Kate's. Kate's natural look is home counties, British girl style. So they come from very different backgrounds, and I think they have quite different approaches as well, which also tell us a lot about their roles as well. Of course, Meghan and Harry were less senior members of the royal family, and they've now left the royal family, so they've got a bit more leeway. They can experiment a little bit more. They can take a few more risks with what they're wearing. Whereas for the Duchess of Cambridge, she's really got to be very appropriate, always very mindful of her role as a future queen. And I think she looks very sophisticated, but she's a little bit less daring with what she wears than Meghan might be.
In May, the prince and the actress attended their first public event as a couple and were pictured kissing at the annual Audi Polo Challenge in Ascot, England. Harry and Meghan's 2017 Invictus Games appearance was a major milestone. It marked the first time the Duke and Duchess of Sussex stepped out as a couple.
In arranging for Meghan Markle, who lives in Toronto, to appear at these games, Prince Harry's advisors had to weigh up the impact it will have on the competitors. Will it focus attention on their achievements or take the spotlight away?
Well, Harry had to go to Toronto for the Invictus Games, which is his big charity, and Toronto is Meghan's adopted hometown, so they met there, and he decided that it was a good moment, or his press people decided it was a good moment for them to be photographed together. And they were watching a tennis match, and she was wearing a sort of big shirt and ripped jeans, and she looked really cool.
I think my favourite outfit of Meghan's has to be the ripped jeans and white shirt that she wore the first time that her and Harry were ever photographed together at the Invictus Games in Toronto. The reason I love it is because that shirt was by one of her friends, Misha Nunu, and it was called the husband shirt. So it was just a brilliant example of the way that clothes can talk, because of course we knew that, you know, the relationship between these two was really serious and engagement was probably on the cards, and if you needed any bigger clue than that, I mean, her wearing a husband shirt makes it pretty obvious. And yeah, of course, a few months later, their engagement was announced. So I really liked that she looked very un-princess-like in that moment, but was also very firmly telling us what to expect from the future, simply through the outfit that she was wearing.
Meghan was there to show her support for a cause that's near and dear to Harry's heart. In 2014, he created the Games as a way for wounded soldiers to get together, compete, and for their communities to rally around them, just like Meghan did by showing up. They kept their relationship private long before their royal wedding, children, or life in California, but that changed in 2017 when they made their first public appearance together at the Invictus Games. Held in Toronto, Ontario, the Canadian city where Meghan filmed Suits at the time, the two arrived at a wheelchair tennis match holding hands. And from the stands, they proceeded to laugh and whisper.
I think what's been really exciting as we talk about the transition of this out of my career but into the role is that, as you said, the causes that have been very important to me I can focus even more energy on, because very early out of the gate I think you realize once you have access or a voice that people are willing to listen to, with that comes a lot of responsibility, which I take seriously. And at the same time, I think in these beginning few months and now being boots on the ground in the UK, I'm excited to just really get to know more about the different communities here, smaller organizations who are working on the same causes that I've always been passionate about under this umbrella. And also being able to go around to the Commonwealth. I think it's just the beginning of a...
There's a lot to do.
Really?
There's a lot to do.
The outing remains a major moment in Meghan and Harry's relationship timeline, but it wasn't even the first time that Meghan had been spotted at the Invictus Games. Just days earlier, she had attended the opening ceremony of the Games, sitting a few rows away from Harry. And as the couple visited Scotland, September also saw Prince Harry orchestrate a secret introduction between his girlfriend and the Queen.
I think what was really clever for Meghan is that she didn't completely change overnight. She didn't go kind of full Duchess. I think she was very determined to find her own way of doing royal dressing. So right from the off, she would wear trousers, which at the time wasn't really a done thing for royal women. But she did recognise that she had to do things in a new way. So she started wearing designs by British designers and showing kind of patriotic symbols with her clothes. So she wore kind of tartan when she was in Scotland, for instance. So she was finding a balance between kind of original Meghan style and royal Meghan style.
As rumors of a royal engagement swirled in November, Meghan left Suits after 6 years on the hit show.
It happened a few weeks ago, earlier this month, here at our cottage. Just a standard, typical night for us.
It's a cozy night. It was, what were we doing? Just roasting chicken and
Roasting
having
a chicken, trying to roast a chicken.
Trying to roast a chicken, and it was just an amazing surprise. It was so sweet and natural and very romantic.
Just days later, Kensington Palace confirmed. His Royal Highness and Ms. Markle became engaged in London earlier this month.
William and I are absolutely thrilled. It's such exciting news. It's a really happy time for any couple, and we wish them all the best and hope they enjoy this happy moment.
Absolutely thrilled. It's brilliant. And as I said, America's loss is our gain, and we're all absolutely delighted. As you can see, they're so happy. Sometimes, you know, in a climate where we're surrounded by a lot of bad news, it's a real joy to have a bit of good news for once. And as I said before, we're delighted.
And the engagement has the approval of her future father-in-law.
No, we're thrilled, thank you very much, to both of them. So I hope they'll be very happy indeed.
London will most probably be a city that suits Meghan Markle. Vibrant, cosmopolitan and diverse. Attributes fit for a modern-day princess.
When we ask visitors from around the world, what's the number one reason for coming to Britain? They say history, pageantry and tradition. And this year we've had our record number of American visitors as well, because of course we're 16-17% better value for the rest of the world. So we'll see huge numbers of Americans coming in next year, I suspect.
Yeah, that's the difference with this, isn't it? That we're getting an American properly involved in a royal wedding, as opposed to them watching from afar and loving the spectacle. One of their own is going to be in whatever church we're talking about. This is going to lead to an incredible amount of people coming over, isn't it?
It really will. The last American actress to marry a prince was Grace Kelly. That's our benchmark here. So we'll be seeing lots of Americans wanting to come over, feeling invested, and for once, for the first time in a long time, tradition, pageantry and heritage and royalty will mean something more to American visitors. We know that we're their number one destination in the world. They've come here in record numbers this year because we're much better value as a destination. They'll come here in record numbers again next year.
We would expect to see huge interest in this wedding. It's an American. America is our most valuable inbound market. And we know that Harry, across the world, there's been huge interest in who he's going to marry.
Well, I think it'll be quite marvelous, and I hope it'll be quite marvelous for him, and obviously will help to bring us together. But you know, that reflects so many of the people-to-people ties that are so strong.
I just think I would never have imagined this. I was actually talking to my mum about this earlier today, and my mum's a white woman and my dad's black, and she talked about in the 80s when she would have me and my brother in the pushchair and she would get abuse in the street. The NF would write things on the wall near her house, and National Front, and she faced a lot of abuse for having black children, as we were just defined as black. And she said she couldn't have imagined in her lifetime for this to happen, and she thinks it's amazing and it's a massive step forward for British culture.
Activist Kaiser Rose also applauds the happy couple, but wonders how far Britain has really come.
I think there are some changes, otherwise this wouldn't happen, and it's also good to remember that when the media first heard of her, they were not very kind.
It's so easy for a long-distance relationship to fail, so Harry and Meghan took precautions to make sure that the distance between them didn't get in the way. Harry even prioritized seeing Meghan to the point that he broke protocol. Instead of flying home after a royal tour, Harry flew to see Meghan, mixing work and personal into one trip, whatever it took to see his girlfriend.
It was just a choice, right? I think that very early on when we realized we were going to commit to each other, that we knew we had to invest the time and the energy and whatever it took to make that happen. And so yes, with the filming schedule, it was not the easiest because it of course included a lot of travel back and forth, but
I don't think you've had any idea what time zone you've been on for the last year and a half.
no.
Coming over here 4 days or a week and then going back and then straight into filming the next day, 4 a.m. wake-up calls on a Monday,
Yes.
straight into set.
Ever since the announcement of their engagement on November 27, 2017, the world has been eagerly awaiting the next royal spectacular, the wedding of Prince Harry and American actress Meghan Markle.